Hello everyone, this is Chris, MTGO's Rec Start, and I'm back for another in the ongoing Show and Tell series where we take a look at the decks of the Legacy Tribal Wars format of Magic the Gathering Online as they are played every week in the Tribal Apocalypse Player Run event. And my voice is not with me this week. I've been sick for a few days, so bear with me if I break up a little bit, but I'm going to try to get through a lot of content this week. So, starting with congratulations to A&M1. He has won the Uril the Miststalker Challenge. The requirements were to play a deck including a Beast Tribal deck with 3 copies of Uril and a minimum of 6 beneficial auras, and he pulled it off here after I realized that there were a lot of 4-round events. Recently, I lowered the requirements to going 2 and 2. A&M1 had tried it a couple times previously, and this time he was able to do it. And depending on the matchups, this is the kind of deck that could very easily go 3 and 1 or even 4 and 0. It has a lot of potential to crush aggro decks, but unfortunately, as with most mid-range decks, it is not fast enough to race combo decks, and therein lies the problem, although it is capable of some fast starts. So let's take a look at what he's got here. He's got Rancor. You definitely want to be giving these big bodies some trample, and that's at a very nice cost, and once you can get that to stick on a creature, you're getting that back no matter what. So very excellent inclusion there. Utopia Sprawl allows him to ramp from 1 to 3, assuming that his first land drop is a forest, and so he is going with, even though he's in Naya colors here, he's going with the full sets of Savannas and Taigas, and 6 fetch lands here, a couple forests, only the Wolf Runs, the Mountain, the Plains, the 3 Cliffs that he cannot enchant with the Utopia Sprawl. So that gives him a very good chance to pull off a turn 2 Thoctor. He's also got Ceradon Yearling here, which is a great beast for rounding out your curve. If you want something to be able to play at a lower spot on the curve, you could even, off of Utopia Sprawl, say play him plus a Rancor to get some beats on early. Domri Raid, when I was playtesting against A&M1, he was not available yet, so I don't know if this is something he would always been thinking about or was a late inclusion, but I don't know. In a deck with only 20 creatures, the +1's gonna whiff a lot, but the -2 ability I could see being very good here because a lot of his guys are going to quickly outclass any of his aggro opponents. Oblivion Ring is a nice one just as a general out. If you're playing a deck with white, you always have to consider, especially if you're a mid-range deck that figures you're going to need answers to something here and there. If you're not going to be able to close out the game within the first few turns, having something like this in your pocket, definitely solid deck building. Obstinate Baloth, another in one of the cards that gives him a strong advantage against aggro decks. It's 4/4 body for 4. You gain 4 life when it comes out, and it's incidentally pretty good against other decks that would run things like Liliana. Cliffrunner Behemoth gives you Juggernaut stats at a Juggernaut cost, and the upside of possibly having haste and lifelink with some of the red and white permanents earlier on the curve here out on the battlefield. Angelic Destiny, of course, was the prize for taking down the Miststalker challenge, and it's nice to see a couple of them here. It's a very flavorful aura, one of my all-time favorites, and when you put it on one of these guys, making a Woolly Thoctor into a 9/8 flying first striker angel is pretty cool. And of course on Uril the Miststalker, it's absolutely insane, and that was sort of the idea here, is you can load up Uril a little bit. And I did note that A&M1 went with the only the 6 beneficial auras that I'd specified in the contest, which is probably right. When I built the deck myself, I played a full set of Urils at the time. I had a full set and ran more than this in terms of auras and went a little too all in on that. I think that this is probably the better way to go. Thragtusk, a card which has been terrorizing aggro decks in Standard for quite some time, making an appearance here and surely terrorizing aggro decks in this format as well. Very difficult to beat through, and that is the strength of these mid-range decks, is that they present bodies that are big, difficult to deal with. You can't bolt this guy. You can't really do anything to him. It's the aggro decks run into a mid-range deck like this with all this life gain and these big bodies, and sometimes they just fold. So it certainly is very difficult for the aggro decks unless they're on the play to. They'd have to get you down to burn range and then hope you don't get back up above burn range with anything like this. And of course, Contested Cliffs, very solid. Inclusion gives you incremental card advantage over the course of the game. being able to use it as repeatable removal as long as you have some kind of board presence with these big guys. And Kessig Wolf Run helps you finish off a game quickly when you need to do so. And of course, Uril the Miststalker himself, not just for the +2/+2 ability for each aura attached to it, just for being a 5/5 hexproof, is a pretty solid creature. And during Alara block constructed, he was one of the hottest things at that Pro Tour, if I recall correctly, just for being a 5/5 hexproofer that was very difficult to deal with. So, anyways, congratulations to A&M1 for taking down the first challenge of the year. All right, second challenge coming right up, and it is Pox. Here is the challenge. You have to play with a total of at least 4 copies. You can play more if you want, but at least 4 copies of either Pox or Smallpox. You don't have to play 4 of one. You can mix and match 2 of each, 3 in 1, however you want to do it. But at least 4 copies between these 2 cards. Pox is a little more expensive. It's about 50 cents on MTGO Traders. Smallpox is only 10 or 12. So I gave the option here that if you don't want to use the more expensive one, you can run 4 Smallpox. This is a card that has had decks built around it that have been competitive in the past, and so there should be a lot of room here. As with the modified rules for the Miststalker Challenge, if it's a 4-round event, you will only have to go 2 and 2 to claim the prize. But I am, if there is 2 people in the event or more that were to accomplish it, if there's that much interest in this, the one getting the higher record is going to get the prize. But if only one person does, and they will only need 2 wins. So I hope that's clear. I'll try to write it out in the article and make it a little more clear. The only requirement for cards is to include a total of 4 among these 2, and the restriction is that you cannot run it within Vampires or Douthie. And I'm doing that to encourage people to actually build around the cards rather than just slap it into a mono black aggro deck. I want to see some actual interactions in this to win the contest. And so rather than go through and list a bunch of things, I'm just going to pick probably the 2 mono black aggro decks that that wouldn't have any natural synergies with this. Now you can play Vampire or Douthie creatures in your deck, but they cannot count among the 20. It cannot be a tribal Vampire or tribal Douthie deck. So the prize for this one, upping it just a little bit from the last, is going to be a card that traditionally has gone in Smallpox decks, and that is Cursed Scroll. It's currently about a $5 card on MTGOtraders.com. And it's often been the win condition in mono black control lists and Smallpox decks in the past. So Cursed Scroll will be your prize, 1 regular non-foil copy on Magic the Gathering Online if you win the contest. Again, details will be spelled out in the written portion, and so pay attention to those. But that is a challenge. All right, I have a lot of replays to go through this week, and I will be taking a look at the decks that correspond to those replays in each of the videos. So let's get straight to that. And part 2 forthcoming.